Been announced that Deshaun Watson will not play in this upcoming game against the 49ers, a game that, even if he did play, would be a really tough win for the Cleveland Browns. But looking at the bigger picture here, this is technically the third week in a row he's been injured. Obviously, they had the bye week, but he missed that game against the Ravens, and they got thumped. And they'll probably get thumped on Sunday against the 49ers. So we're kind of getting to that point where it's it is starting to become a concern here. It's becoming a big concern here, actually, because we saw how bad they were without his capability against the Ravens. They got smacked. DTR, although he showed a lot of flash in the preseason, he just wasn't ready to do that. He wasn't ready to, be the QB in that game against that, talented Ravens team. He wasn't ready for that. And I heard reports that they might not start him. But, whoever they throw out there against the 49ers, it's not going to be enough. I mean, if you look at the numbers of Deshaun Watson this year, they're not necessarily bad. They're not necessarily good, but they're enough to keep the Browns afloat with how good their defense is. I think the Browns, after kind of looking at their first couple of games, excluding the Ravens game, they're kind of missing a second receiver. And, I know that Amari Cooper validated number one. He's played great. But Donovan Peoples-Jones has seemed not to step up as much. Elijah Moore has his moments, but he's more of a, gadget guy than a true number two. So I think that's one thing they're lacking. But you could see in that game, against the Ravens, they missed Deshaun Watson a lot. He's got his numbers through 3 games are pretty solid. I thought they were he's got a 63.7 completion percentage, which not great, but close to his average in every other year. He's got 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 87.8 rating. I mean, that's on par with what his career was. So he's not playing that bad. But this injury is just a very weird situation that we're running into here. And it's something to do with his shoulder, and he can't, complete the ball all the way. But he's had 3 weeks. He can't give it a go. It's just seeming kind of weird. Stefanski had some weird things that he was saying to the press. He was saying, yeah, he's medically cleared, but he doesn't want to play. And it's like sometimes you can be medically cleared and you could still not be 100%. Like sometimes if you can't complete that ball, if you can't do that motion properly, you probably can't play. But I just thought it was weird of Stefanski to even say that. Because why would you even say that to stir stuff up? You could have just said the team made a decision that he wasn't want to play. So that makes me think that there's something bigger, and maybe he's choosing not to play because remember, the Browns, they guaranteed him this contract. He doesn't have to play. They guaranteed him this money. So he can sit out as many games as he wants. He can lose as many games as he wants. That's the power that they kind of gave him within this contract. And it's maybe he really is that injured, or maybe he's taking days off. It's tough at this point. And, is this another lost year for the Browns? Because they're going to lose to the 49ers. After that, they should beat the Colts. You got to play the Seahawks. It's going to be a tough game. I think they can handle the Cardinals. Back to the Ravens, back to the Steelers. This could get ugly. This could get ugly if Deshaun Watson doesn't come back. It could. They need him. As good as the defense is, they need him to make the postseason. They need him if they have a shot to do that. The backups that they have are just not talented enough to get them to the postseason. So hopefully he's back against the Colts, because they're going to be 2-3 going into that game, and hopefully this isn't a bigger situation. And another thing that I wanted to get into is Stefanski, what a tough road this has been since that 2020 playoff win. He really hasn't had a quarterback in like 3 or 4 years since then. Baker had the torn labrum in 2021, was sidelined for several games. Even when he came in and played, he wasn't 100%. He was a shell of what his best was. The year after, obviously, Deshaun Watson was suspended for all those games. I think like 11 games or whatever they had to play. Brissett wasn't their main guy. They could have won a lot more games if there was no suspension. And then this year, we already have Deshaun Watson missing 2 games. So obviously, it's been a tough road for him. I said at the beginning of the year that he should be him and Barry will probably be out if they don't make the postseason. I'm starting to turn on that opinion because some of it, he hasn't had a quarterback. Like if Deshaun Watson continues to not play, what is he supposed to do? Nick Chubb's out with that injury. What is he supposed to do? He hasn't really had a shot since the 2020 year. He really hasn't. I mean, if we're really getting into specifics, now obviously if Deshaun Watson comes back, he should be expected for like the rest of the year. He should be expected to make the playoffs. But at the same time, your number one offensive weapon, Nick Chubb, is out for the year. So it's like, how do we even rate that? Is he that bad of a coach, or is he just getting very unlucky with these injuries? The one year they were all healthy in 2020, they won a playoff game and almost knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs, who went on to win the Super Bowl. Or who went on to lose in the Super Bowl that year in 2020. But still, that was the one year he had like everybody healthy. And no, even with that, there was an injury. OBJ was hurt for that. So I don't know if you can go ahead and blame him yet. There's been a lot of injuries. It's been an unlucky 10 year for him. But the hope right now, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, is that Deshaun Watson is actually hurt. He's not milking this. He's not, there's not something internally going on. And the hope is that he comes back, if not against the Colts, at least by the Seahawks, because it could get ugly. They could drop to 2-5 if he doesn't play the next 2 games after this 49ers game. They'll be 2-3. There's no chance they beat the 49ers. 0% chance. But they can beat the Colts. And if Deshaun Watson's healthy, they could beat the Seahawks. You could beat the Cardinals. I still stand that if Deshaun Watson is healthy, they could beat the Ravens. And they could go on a run. He's just got to come back. And you got to hope that it's nothing internal. And Stefanski has to be given a fair shot. Because, although we can say what we want to say about the play calling, we can say what we want to say about how the last couple of years have transpired, his guys haven't been healthy. You got to give him a fair fight.